Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Khalilba. Today is the 28th of July 2021, and we will be discussing the following topics during the course of our show. We will begin, ladies and gentlemen, with a Prime Minister who has said, and I quote, while talking to an American news channel for their program News Hour, this is the channel PBS, he said that the United States really messed it up in Afghanistan. He also questioned during the course of the interview the American motive of Afghan invasion in the first place and their subsequent attempts to seek a political solution with the Taliban from a position of weakness. Of course, that referred to their leaving Afghanistan, the US troops, that is. Also, a 9-member Taliban delegation is on a 2-day official visit to China, where they have met with the foreign minister for talks on the peace process and security issues. What does that mean for the relationship between the Afghan Taliban and China? Is there a new power game in the process of development in the region? This is going to be our first segment. Our second segment, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the IMF that has acknowledged the robust economic activity in Pakistan. The International Monetary Fund, or the IMF, has at the same time acknowledged Pakistan's activity and has kept the global growth forecast likely unchanged at 6% for the current year and 4.9% for the fiscal year, for the next year, that is. This is, of course, an update of the World Economic Outlook. Our third segment of the day, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the Indian media reports regarding the withdrawal of the GSP plus status for Pakistan by the European Union, which has been rubbished by the Foreign Office in a statement that the Foreign Office spokesperson gave. Also, at the same time, we will be talking about the different malicious campaigns, social and otherwise, online and offline, that the Indian government and the Indian authorities have been continuing against Pakistan. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be talking about the rain that has created havoc all across Pakistan. But this morning, it created a very unusual and dramatic situation in Islamabad, our capital city. You can see in the parallel window, this is the situation that happened in E11 sector of Islamabad. Of course, now the situation is much better, but in the morning there was, of course, a cloud burst in the area, due to which there was a record rainfall, as a result of which 2 people, a mother and a child, lost their lives. Let's begin with our first segment, ladies and gentlemen, and that concerns the interview that our Prime Minister Imran Khan gave to PBS Hour, in which PBS News Hour, in fact, this is the program of the channel PBS, in which he talked about the Afghan peace process and the relationship between Afghanistan and the US. More in the following report.
In an interview with Judy Woodruff on PBS NewsHour, Premier Imran Khan emphasized that the United States really messed up in Afghanistan. While cognizant of volatile security situation in western neighbor, Prime Minister Khan suggested that the only good solution to the country's situation is through a political settlement that is inclusive and involves all factions, including the Taliban. The Premier reiterated his formidable detest for prospects of military solution and pressed that there was no military solution to the problem, and by trying military solutions, the US had really messed it up in Afghanistan. It is pertinent to mention here that hasty American withdrawal from Afghanistan catalyzed unprecedented developments, whereby ground realities crystallized at astronomical pace. The Taliban seized the vast swathes of land, including major border crossings and important security checkposts, at lightning speed. The chairman of the US Joint Chief of Staff General Mark Milley recently acknowledged that the Taliban appeared to have strategic momentum on the battlefield. Furthermore, in order to discuss emerging security calculus in Afghanistan, a 9-member Taliban delegation is on a 2-day visit to China. Taliban spokesperson Mohammad Naim tweeted that politics, economy, and issues related to the security of both countries and the current situation of Afghanistan and the peace process were discussed in the meetings. The deteriorating security situation in Afghanistan perpetually poses colossal strategic challenge to regional countries, as peace talks in Doha have not made substantive progress. The 2-day talks between the Afghan High Council for National Reconciliation and the Taliban ended without a major breakthrough in Doha, thus missed an opportunity to foster enabling environment for peace.
And now, to further discuss the emerging situation in Afghanistan, of course, in the context of Prime Minister's interview to PBS Hour and the visit to China of the Afghan Taliban delegation, we've been joined by Dr. Amina Mehmood. She's a foreign affairs analyst. Thank you very much, Dr. Saiba, to have joined us. Dr. Saiba, first of all, when our Prime Minister says that the US has really messed it up, Has the US really deteriorated the situation as far as Afghanistan is concerned by leaving early, by giving a free hand to the Afghan Taliban? What's your point of view on that?
Thank you, Umar, for inviting me here. We have been discussed off and on that before leaving external forces, there should be some Afghan-led, Afghan-owned solution to the problem, and we all predicting that when they would leave all allied forces, NATO forces, then there would be civil war, because Afghans are not able to reach any solution about their political system, about power distribution, about the form of government even. And the government sitting in Afghanistan, Kabul, that was just a puppet government, and they were sitting with the force of and backing of United States. So it was inevitable, and since US started withdrawal and they are in haste to go from here, and they were actually following two contradictory goals. They wanted to keep their presence in this region, and they want to leave Afghanistan because it was, you know, a big toll for them in terms of their economic resources, in terms of their power, in terms of their forces investment. So I think that that haste is actually the reason for which we can say that they left Afghanistan without going to some solution that may lead to some peaceful settlement in terms of Afghan government.
So the Afghan Taliban have the upper hand now?
Obviously, because they were equal partner in negotiations when they settled to leave Afghanistan, and there were certain conditions, and even Taliban were not ready to tolerate them, because they were very clear that they are in terms of power equation, they are having dominance, and they cannot be defeated. Even in presence of US forces, you saw that the Taliban were still having an upper hand, and that's why they compelled US to withdraw. Otherwise, if they would be less in equation in terms of power, US might have not left from Afghanistan.
Is the US perturbed? Is the US kind of in a quarry-like situation because of the what is developing in Afghanistan? I mean, we've seen on the 19th of July that Zalmi Khalilzad Saab visited Pakistan, held very important meetings, and of course has talked about Pak-US relationship in the context of the Afghan peace process in the future of Afghanistan. Is the US depending on Pakistan to handle the issue?
I don't think so. US is depending on Pakistan. They have their own very strong partner in South Asia, that is India, and they want to have an arrangement that is inside Afghanistan. They are following two arrangements. One is that there should be some government that is minusing Taliban, and since they don't trust on Taliban, and they cannot control Taliban. That's why they are aiming to have. And then secondly, outside Afghanistan, they want to have a regional alliance that maybe included Pakistan and India and US and maybe Uzbekistan, and they want to keep their hold on all developments in Afghanistan. And I wonder how they would manage, because this is now impossible.
All right.
Because there is a regional effort, there is a regional solution, and in that China and Russia are also partner, and they have much stronger position.
Now let's speak of China and the visit of the delegation of the Afghan Taliban. And there is a very strong tweet that has come from the spokesperson of the Afghan Taliban about the issues that have been discussed. Is there a new power game being developed in the region?
Obviously, that is power shift in this region. Omar, you have seen that the visit to Taliban's visit to China is evident that now China is the major player. They are looking for some safe guarantee for their investment, because peace in Afghanistan is guarantee of the peace in all whole region. And they have investment in Iran, in Pakistan, and BRI that is passing through Central Asia, and only volatile and volcano is Afghanistan. So they want to bring peace, and they are ready to invest a lot in Afghanistan. And at this time, Afghanistan needs money and help without having any strategic guarantees. China is investing in terms of economy and politics, but not they want to have them in their strategic alliance.
All right.
But US is other way around. They are always aiming at strategic alliance instead of giving support in terms of politics and economy.
All right, now let's talk of strategic alliance. Let's go back to the US and let's talk about the interview that our premier gave to PBS's NewsHour. He said, and I quote, that by the time the US realized that there was no military solution in Afghanistan, unfortunately, the bargaining power of the Americans or the NATO had gone. Do you agree?
Yes, I agree, because NATO was not having bargaining power even sitting in Afghanistan. We have seen how they lost in Qatar and Doha process, and they have to come to the terms to what Taliban posed them. And the agreement was signed on the terms of Taliban, not at the terms of United States. And sitting there, they may assert even that we will not leave if you will not abide by the terms. But now, since they have left, and Taliban is controlling more than 70 to 80% area right now, and they are advancing more. So it would not be possible to now to US to dictate their terms in any way.
All right. When the premier says that the only good outcome would be a political settlement that should be inclusive, how optimistic are you of this political solution that should be inclusive, that should include other segments of the Afghan society apart from the Afghan Taliban?
When Premier says that it should be an inclusive solution, it means that he wanted to have Taliban along with all other factions of Afghanistan on board. And that is Pakistan's point of view, that when we say that there should be Afghan-owned and Afghan-led solution, it means that they should sit over the table and go for negotiations and bargain with each other and had come out with a solution. That solution may not be dictated from any power, even including Pakistan, and we are not ready for that, that we are going to dictate them. We have handed over everything to them, and that would be a reliable and viable solution. That Premier means, I mean,
All right.
I think. And US should understand that, and US is not understanding, because we have read that there is a visit of Pakistan National Security Advisor Moeed Yusuf and General Faiz, our ISI chief. He is there, and again the agenda item is, and we have seen that American Secretary of State is New Delhi, he's in New Delhi, having some arrangement in which US should be present in regional control. I think that is a very ambitious goal, and US is not able to do that, I think that China and Russia would be more resistant to any such arrangement in which China and Russia is minus, because they are the regional powers, and they are having
and they are the powers that are much nearer than the US.
Much stakes involved in regional security, because they have shifted their agenda to geo-economic agenda. Now they need peace for that purpose, and US is having a very meager role in that process.
All right. Our Premier also talked about the worst case scenario, that is an eruption of a civil war in Afghanistan and the repercussions that it could have on Pakistan, which include the influx of more migrants into our country. How much do you foresee this worst case scenario as we speak, as the things are developing in Afghanistan?
Obviously, that was that is a major apprehension of Pakistan, that first influx of refugee, and then secondly rise in terrorism, you know, and that we have controlled our society, and that would be a major threat for peace in Pakistani society, and that is against Pakistan national security, internal national security design. And that is inevitable in case of war, especially near the areas of bordering Pakistan. That would be, you know, inevitable. And since they are mostly Pakhtuns living in these areas, so it would be very hard to regret them to send them back. It's not capacity in Pakistani border forces to stop them, and we are morally bound to welcome them, and that is the major apprehension. And what about civil war? Civil war is already in progress. You see that Taliban are advancing, but ironically we have seen very small resistance from the local forces. Even Afghan official army is not, you know, resisting.
Exactly.
It means that Taliban have gained more support from the local population within Afghanistan, and that is a positive thing, because if their tilt of balance of power would be in favor of Afghan Taliban, certainly that would be near to solution. Because in Afghan society we see that power is very important in gaining position in Kabul.
So all right, now let's speak also about the Taliban and our Prime Minister, who said it is extremely unfair to allege that Pakistan supported the Taliban by military intelligence and financial support to the country. He said, and I quote, "I find this extremely unfair." Why is the West labeling Pakistan as such?
Because West knows. West was the part of when Pakistan was being supported. It was on the agreement with the West. CIA was financial, source, and Pakistani forces conveyed. But that period has gone. That was it during the period. That was during the period of
Soviet invasion.
And with Soviet withdrawal, we have all together changed our policy. In 1990s, when Taliban rose to the power pedestal, it was US itself who recognized them, not only Pakistan. But after that, you see that in Musharraf period, Pakistan totally changed its policy, and it was a state policy, and Afghan Taliban were totally independent. And Pakistan was having very least capacity to influence them, and that too on the basis of the past support Pakistan offered to Taliban. And that was not only by Pakistan, but that was the whole Western alliance that was on the back of against USSR in their Cold War designs. So Premier is very right in that we don't have, and rather we disowned that if somebody would occupy Kabul by force, we are not going to recognize, because we support some political solution. We don't want to have any military solution and civil war in Afghanistan. That's Pakistan point of view. How can we support Taliban in this way as they are doing?
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Amina Mehmood, foreign affairs expert, talking to us about our Prime Minister's interview to PBS NewsHour, in fact, in which he already discussed things that we know about. But it was very important that the West, especially the US, understands Pakistan's point of view as far as the Afghan peace process, the Afghan-led and Afghan-owned peace process that Pakistan has been talking about is all about. And of course, Pakistan has always been wanting that. And what we need and we want is that the US and other Western states also understand Pakistan's perspectives and Pakistan's point of view. Thank you very much, ma'am. Right. We'll be back with our second segment after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and our second segment pertains to the economic growth in Pakistan. Our Prime Minister has talked about it. The State Bank of Pakistan had talked about it yesterday in a media brief, and the IMF has also in a report acknowledged the robust economic activity in Pakistan. And now to discuss the different elements and the different spheres in which Pakistan has attained economic growth, what needs to be done, what has been done, what led to this economic recovery that has been appreciated by the IMF. We've been joined by Abdul Jalil Saab. He's a leading economist from Pakistan. Abdul Jalil Saab, thank you very much to have joined us. Abdul Jalil Saab, when the IMF acknowledges the robust economic activity in Pakistan, you remember this is the same IMF that has criticized Pakistan on many an occasion in the past as well. What are the elements that have led to the IMF praising Pakistan's economic activity?
I think IMF, among other things, it's a lending agency. The very first objective that I like to follow is that how much money they can retrieve from the restructure economic model, whatever they want to create. And in this respect, they are quite satisfied the amount of the tax which has been collected by FBR.
Right.
So I think the major achievement has been made by FBR, and FBR has won plus point about it, and the credit goes to the leadership of the FBR as well.
All right. The forecast is also unchanged at 6% as far as the world growth is concerned by the IMF. How much do you see Pakistan's role in that as well, and other important countries?
Pakistan, under the circumstances, have a great potential if it applies its policy in a rational manner. For example, the chain supply system in the world has been totally disturbed because of the growing academics. Some economies, even developed economies like Italy, even Germany and other, they have met with great recession and the decline, meltdown of their economy as well. Number one, and number two is number two is that the Indian economy, especially, it has suffered a lot under this Indian Delta virus as well.
Have we kind of taken any advantage from?
This is what I wanted to say, that we must try to understand and examine the opportunity that this new environment, the economic environment, is creating for us. And the government of Pakistan, and I will say, they have applied their wisdom, and to a certain extent they were able to avail of and exploit the opportunity in their own favor as well. As a result of it, we have seen that the accumulation of the foreign exchange have gone up. This is a good news for the country as well. But we need to keep up the momentum by a vigorous measure, which the government is taking as well. Prime Minister very recently has visited Uzbekistan as well. Uzbekistan it's a very important, it can play a very important role in the development of that regional economy.
Okay.
You know, and they have also shown interest in the various economic projects that the government of Pakistan have taken, especially CPECs, which provide opening not only to China but to the Central Asian country as an economic corridor, as an energy corridor as well.
All right. Now, when the IMF forecasts 4.9% for next year, that is the global growth forecast as far as Pakistan is concerned.
Yes, it is a, you know, the World Bank and IMF, both of them have given their own assessment as well. For example, World Bank says that it would grow about 3 to 4%, but the IMF says that it will go to from 2 to 4% as well, right? And United States of America over the year have only experienced a growth of 0.5% as well. So it's quite a slow growth as well. Firstly, and secondly, this the state now, previously it used to, you know, it used to be known as in the West that the state have become a rent seeking. It has developed a culture of the rent seeking, and as a result of it, it is putting a lot of tax liability, financial liability upon the people as well. But the first time we have seen now in the United States of America, the government was, in fact, has been forced to provide special security, financial security measure to its own people and to investors as well.
All right.
And to a huge extent of $1 trillion, it has been earmarked and it has been distributed among ordinary people as well as among the investors as well, because the investment scenarios have also been shaken very badly in the United States of America and in the West as well.
All right. Now, Jalil Sahab, the State Bank of Pakistan's governor also held a media brief yesterday in which he talked about many different aspects of Pakistan's economy, including the current account deficit to be 2 to 3%. He said the interest rate is going to be unchanged at 7%. The GDP growth he also predicted at 4 to 5% this year. And he said that Pakistan's reserve buffers are expected to rise by another $2.8 billion through this IMF's planned new global SDR allocation. Are all of these pointers strong enough to bring Pakistan out of the current economic crisis that different countries are facing?
You know, we are getting positive indicators as well. Number one positive indicator I would like to say is the CPECs, you know. The CPECs and development of the Gwadar port, which gives real good news to the world and to the regional economic model, that this is a place which provides you a quick connectivity with the most developed model of the economy, right? You know, Gwadar. And now it carries a lot of promises. It carries a lot of it carries a very positive hopes for the future, for the development of the future commerce and the trade as well. And as a result of it, what we have seen, that the economic scenario have improved and the investment scenario have also improved. and some investment from outside country, from Asia, from Africa, and from Europe, it is now trickling down or coming into Pakistan.
Are the remittances also helping?
Remittances have, yes, it have registered a great increase as well, both from the Europe as well as from the Middle East as well. Although we will find that the Middle East, especially the Gulf states economy, is not experiencing a very positive or a very big growth as they were expecting it, right? And especially with the low production of with the petrol and the low prices of the petrol as well. It is another factor. But it has the economic activity in these countries, they have registered some increase as well. And we got to see it, especially in service sector, number one, and number two, food and agriculture sector, it has registered some growth as well. And manufacturing sector in Pakistan, it has picked up a positive sign of the development as well, especially with certain steps which the government of Pakistan have taken in to rationalize their monetary policy with the investment policy.
Right.
The bank interest rate have gone down as well. This was a good news for the investor, and they have responded positively.
All right.
Well.
This current account deficit also, I'd like to again reiterate, that has fallen to only 0.6% of the GDP, and as per Mr. Raza Bakar, it is the lowest current account deficit in 10 years, and it is supported by all-time high exports and remittances. Remittances, we've been talking about high exports. Which are the sectors that Pakistan has really achieved good exports in?
Number one, I would like to say the agriculture, it constitutes a very important sector of our economy. The agriculture field has picked up a good development as well, and we were able to especially, I would say it did not earn much revenue as well, but it has, to a certain extent, it has helped our economy. The food, especially the orchard, the fruit, and the vegetables as well. And number two, I would say, and now the government of Pakistan have taken special step for the growth of the olive garden in this country as well. And probably in millions and millions of the land in Balochistan is going to be earmarked for the growth of the olive tree as well, number two, because it provides. Secondly, I would say in the higher engineering sector as well. Pakistan, especially our auto sector, has experienced good growth. There is another sector in which we are not paying much attention, that is the IT sector and software development sector. This is a sector which is earning a lot of money, a lot of foreign exchange from the country, and there are huge prospects for earning, foreign exchange from the developed country as well, because the software development technology in the West is very expensive, and we need to put a dent in this respect, as it is always said. And when we try to examine the future prospect of the economy, so we will always say it is going to be based upon the knowledge development, fundamental of the knowledge, and it all depends upon that how we are able to capitalize the future knowledge and the future opportunity in the best interest of Pakistan, and those future opportunity of economic development arise from the IT development sector. That is the special area in which the government should play a key role. The government should itself play a key role in it and commit more resources, financial resources as well as non-financial resources for its development.
Now, when we talk of capitalizing resources, the governor of the State Bank of Pakistan also said that the country's external financing needs of $20 billion will be more than fully met in the fiscal year 2022. And he says that as a result, the foreign exchange reserves are going to further rise. And he adds that to the remittances, of course, that are increasing by every month. And he also talks about the State Bank of Pakistan's Roshan Digital Account Initiative for overseas Pakistanis that has generated more than $1.8 billion. Initiatives such as Roshan Digital Pakistan account and so on and so forth, and the remittances, how important are these to stabilize Pakistan's economy?
These steps which the government have taken, especially in development of the social sector economy, in development of infrastructure economy, has paid very well, especially our housing sector as well. The government has provided a lot of tax shelter to construction industry. As a result of it, as you know, Pakistan as a country is facing a lot of shortage in the housing sector as well. And in order to overcome it, the government has announced certain relief package for the construction company, and they came up with a good response as well, number one. But what I want to say is that the trust of the investor is very important. The real, I would say the victory of this government is that they were able to win the trust of the investor. And probably I would say that in this respect, the government has acted consistently with its the various, although it was not, I would say, the various steps which they have taken to enforce culture of accountability in this country. Although the certain objectives have fully objective in its entire, as the government has promised, they could not be achieved fully, but still they have gone halfway to achieve them, and it have raised the certain, the trust level of the investor, the business community as well, that at least the state has now come up with a determined, with a determined system and with a determined regulatory framework and an objective to protect the interest of the genuine investor, business class, and the common man as well. And they will be safe from the exploitation, exploitation which they're traditionally facing at the hand of the corrupt element of the country.
When there's also talk of the reduction of public debt from 83.1% of the GDP to 81.8% in the next fiscal year. How important is that as well for a country like Pakistan?
This public debt is a big menace as well, and the government of Pakistan, as the Prime Minister have also said, that a major source of our income is drained out in settling our debt as well. And sometimes we have to borrow foreign exchange, only to settle the foreign debt as well. So this is a menace from which we have to get rid of by taking certain creative economic aspect to improve our economy and to generate the wealth building enterprises in this country. That's very important. Firstly, those the state enterprises which are suffering from the losses, they should be taken out of it. In this respect, the government have to take as yet a drastic step to improve the performance in PIA as well as in Steel Mill Corporation. Steel Mill Corporation is very, very important. It plays a key role in the development of the mega infrastructure development as well as in the higher engineering as well. And the steel mill, steel mill is not, the steel mill is not meant only to produce a high graded steel, but it is required to produce a high quality metallurgy which is required for the development of engine technology.
Thank you very much, Abdul Jalil Saab, leading economist from Pakistan, talking to us about the positive developments that have emanated from the IMF and from the State Bank of Pakistan Governor Raza Bakir as far as Pakistan's economic outlook is concerned, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go to our next segment, ladies and gentlemen, and that concerns the media reports that have emanated from India that Pakistan is no longer part of the GSP Plus package that was given by the European Union, which has been rubbished by the Foreign Office spokesperson. More in the following report.
India has a brazen history of hatching conspiracies against Pakistan since the country's inception and has been trying to destabilize the country through various means. In its latest mischief to besmirk Pakistan, Indian news agency ANI reported on 26th of July that the European Parliament had moved to withdraw Pakistan's GSP Plus status over abuse of blasphemy laws. The Foreign Office immediately refuted baseless fabrications propagated by India in its continuation of disinformation campaign aimed at posing significant harm to national interests of Islamabad. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs on Tuesday further reminded New Delhi about unraveling of its disinformation campaign being unearthed globally as a result of EU Disinfo Lab report. Ministry of Foreign Affairs further cautioned that the Indian state and obliging Indian media remain busy concocting baseless stories against Pakistan. It is pertinent to mention here that the Brussels-based EU Disinfo Lab in its comprehensive investigation titled Indian Chronicles exposed dubious role of Indian news agency ANI in systematically harming interests of rivals. Contrary to failed Indian attempts to diplomatically isolate the country, Pakistan and the EU maintain close high-level engagement through multiple dialogue mechanisms, and Pakistan remains committed to full implementation of the 27 international conventions related to the GSP+. Furthermore, Pakistan has successfully completed 3 biennial reviews of GSP+, and the 4th biennial review is currently underway. Indian nefarious designs are not only wreaking havoc to regional security equation, but also jeopardizing global peace.
Now, the Indian nefarious designs haven't ended. They have been going on since some time, and they will continue to go on. And Pakistan is solidly refuting all these statements that have emanated in this case from the ANI, Indian news agency, that talked about the European Union finishing the GSP plus status for Pakistan, which is of course has been negated by the Foreign Office spokesperson. Such and so many other different malicious campaigns that have started by India need to be also understood and acknowledged by the Western states, by the European Union, by the United States of America, for the different methodologies that the Indian Republic and the Indian government and the BJP head spinners are trying to use in order to destabilize Pakistan. But Pakistan is of course fighting back and fighting back strongly. Let's come to our last segment of the day, ladies and gentlemen, and that concerns the rain, the heavy rain that has occurred in different parts of the country. But this morning there was a cloud burst in some sectors of Pakistan that resulted in heavy flooding in some areas of Islamabad, including the sector E11, as a result of which 2 people lost their lives in the sector. A lady and her son both perished due to this situation. Our Prime Minister Imran Khan has also tweeted very recently. He said, with the heavy monsoon rains, I want to alert and caution our citizens to take special care. He added that he has also directed all the relevant response agencies, including the NDMA, to be on high alert with ready and rapid emergency response actions. The PDMA has also issued a flood warning as far as Khyber Pakhtunkhwa government is concerned. So we need to be extremely vigilant and careful in the coming days. With that, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with new segments and news stories. Take care of yourselves, stay safe, get yourselves vaccinated. Allah Hafiz.